Welcome to another episode of the Luxury Unplugged podcast. Today, we are honored to have a truly inspiring guest, Mark Collins. He is a business and life coach and a devoted husband and a father and the author of a very beautiful book, Life Mastery Living Life by Design, Not by Default. So, with a remarkable track record of guiding hundreds of clients, Mark specializes in helping individuals overcome their fear of failure, imposter syndrome, relationship issues, business challenges. So, his unique approach is what we're going to delve into in this episode. In this conversation, he will be sharing his powerful insights and practical strategies for overcoming self doubt, navigating challenges, and embracing a mindset of abundance and success. Because this is a podcast where luxury meets spirituality, and spirituality is a place for peacefulness, happiness, and abundance. Let's dive in. Welcome, Mark, to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So lovely to have you on the podcast. And to start off, Mark, I have this question about your expertise in guiding individuals to overcome fear of failure. What do you have to say about that? How do you explore that? How do you align that perfectly? Because in this concept of luxury unplugged, we are trying to see how these principles that you are trying to showcase through your book, how do they resonate with our audiences?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking. I think for me, the work that we do is really for the people that we're involved in, entrepreneurs, professionals, people that are really trying to strive for great things in their life, that luxury lifestyle and or whatever their definition is that you have. We first start with identity, really starting with, okay, separating you from your outcomes. And what I tell people is that who you are is more than your income, your possession, your position, your title, your role, your business, whatever the thing is that you've succeeded at or striving towards success in. You're more than those things. And so for us, it really starts from a separation, because that fear of failure is really, it's not an activity outcome, it's an identity statement. It really isn't, the activity that didn't work out well. I've been in business for many years, and I know, like everybody else on here knows, that, sometimes things happen where your income is less than your output, your income is less than your bills, the things that are happening, there's a downturn in the market or a product that didn't work out well, or whatever the thing is that you're working with. Maybe you're in a position, you're a CEO of a company, but your industry is now transitioning and it's not something that's viable anymore. And so it's not really the activity, as you know, as well as I do, and probably many people who are watching. There's failure that's ingrained with every success. Every person that's done wonderful things in their life has also walked through some times where challenge happens, where the first iteration that I tried didn't work, right? For me, my wife and I, we've had multiple businesses. It was until the fifth one that we succeeded. So those first four were really the learning curve and the ability to start to gain understanding. And so failure isn't an activity. If it's a fear of failure, it's an identity statement that says that I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, I haven't measured up. And so for us, when we separate the person from the activity, person from the outcome, now all of a sudden we start to understand that I'm more than these outcomes. And so the fears tends to diminish, because who I am, the person that I'm created to be, my identity, is intact whether I succeed or not.
Right. So in this case, when we talk about this fear of failure, and you say that it is a personality trait, it develops, I think, to my mind, it is because of the experience that a person has had, or maybe he is considering his business challenges or his personal life challenges so much to the heart that he considers himself as a failure.
Yeah.
That is
Absolutely.
so.
And I love what you're saying there, because a lot of times what I tell people is you're either living from who you're created to be or what your life has told you. And that fear of failure isn't because I didn't succeed the first time. In many cases, it's because, well, I failed in the past, as I said with myself and our businesses, where it was the fourth or fifth one that started to succeed and started to gain momentum, so we could have that luxury lifestyle, that the life that we believe we were, meant to have in our own lives. But when you have a past experience that is a lack of success or a fear of failure, or a failure in your life, many times you take it on as an identity. And so it's not that the activity didn't work out, the activity failed, the outcome was a failure, but that I'm a failure.
Right. So, guide us through your story, your life story, because you mentioned that you've seen your set of failures, and you have risen above them, and you have sort of gauged where your strengths are. So, how did you go about it, and what was that point in your life that you thought that no, this is not me, and I'm somebody else, or maybe this is not my true self, whatever way you want to say that.
Yeah.
But when did you see that turning point?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's an interesting one for me because my journey started with my dad was in the military. We moved quite a lot. So we were a very nomadic family. I live in the United States, and I tell people that by the time I was 12 years old, my family and I lived in 6 states and 1 foreign country. So for us, it was moving to a multitude of different places, different cultures, different people, different traditions, different foods, different everything. And so for us, it was really kind of a nomadic existence. And with that, and then having a father who was a strong personality, somebody I didn't feel like I could measure up to, there was this sense of, insecurity, inferiority, or what have you. Well, for me, there was also this voice that I'll call it a voice, but this internal knowing that said that I'm more than the life that I'm living. I'm more than the experiences I have and the outcomes I'm experiencing in my own life. And so for me, it wasn't walking through a great journey and then believing that I was somebody who was meant for more than those things. But it started with an understanding of I'm more than where I'm at. And so my journey into business development and academics and athletics and all the things I used to prove worth and value were an outcome of believing there was more and then reaching out for it in other places. And then, also with, personal development and those books, those courses, those things that you use to really overcome a negative mindset, overcome these identity statements, these ideas that maybe we're not good enough. And for me, none of those really worked. And mine was that spiritual journey, as you had mentioned in your title and what you focus on in your work, of believing that I'm created for more. And in that place, through my own journey, through reading, in my case, scriptures, and understanding that there was more for me than what I was living, and finding instructions in it, I was starting to live it out. Because here's the interesting thing for me, that fear of failure. So I got into business, and we told a little bit about our track record of doing that, but I always wanted to have something that was my own. I always believed that I was meant to create something of my own, not to invest in somebody else's dream, although there's great people who do wonderful things in doing that, but really investing in my own dream, my own vision, my own understanding of what I wanted to do. And so walking through that, we were successful in business. We sold our business for a very sizable profit, and it was awesome. But the interesting thing was that fear of failure and imposter syndrome, what I tell people is it came along for the ride during the whole journey. So while we were struggling, while we were challenged, while we were growing the business and doing those things, there was these thoughts of it's going to blow up, it's going to fail, right? When there's a negative downturn in your income, or you're challenged with something that happened that you didn't expect, and those voices that are telling you you're going to blow it, this is going to be horrible. All the way up until success, all the way up until selling it, those things never left. And so what I work with people on is understanding that, again, it's who you are apart from your outcomes, because unless you work through a transformational journey, start to unpack the person that you're created to be, then you're going to have your outcomes make up the difference. I tell people, when I don't understand who I am, my world has to make up the difference. And that's relationships, and that's income, and that's business. And the problem with that is when my world has to make up the difference, success has to make up the difference, income has to make up the difference, it's never enough.
True.
I'm always having to do more. It's that what I call the hamster wheel. It's that continual perpetual cycle of succeeding and feeling relief but not joy, and then having to do it again, and succeeding and doing the same thing over and over again. But when you live from who you're created to be, then the successes I have are simply an outcome of who I am. They're not a substitute for it.
Right. Beautiful. So I'll take this nugget away that when we are living from inside out, when we are from who's the best version of ourselves, and we're living from that point, then success is natural, and then we tend to enjoy successes more. But tell me something, for the benefit of our audiences. I touch base on imposter syndrome, because when we are going through these successes that we see already in our minds, we know that we are capable of this, and this is possible, and we actually have those steps ahead, but other people around us can't see that, right? And it is very difficult to demonstrate that just by the vision of it. So the imposter syndrome kicks in, I understand, but how do we deal with that? What is your strategy for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back to something I'd said earlier, we always start with identity. Identity is everything. I tell people, if there was one mantra I had, one poster I would have on my wall, one thing I would tell people, it's your identity is everything, because who you are determines your outcomes, or really who you believe you are. And it's either in alignment with who you're created to be, or it's an outcome of your experiences and what you've taken from them. And so for us, and the understanding of imposter syndrome, first, the definition, it's a title that people throw around, and it's certainly a real challenge that people walk through. The definition I give it is this: it's me not believing I'm qualified or I'm capable of whatever the thing is I'm doing. If you're in a position in a job, you have a role there and you're trying to succeed there, or if you're in a business and you're trying to really elevate yourself or even just initiate the business, it's that feeling on the inside that I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified. And there's this phrase that sometimes we hear, which is, if they only knew that I wasn't qualified for this, I wouldn't get this position. And so we had this internal battle of not believing we're good enough while hoping that we are. And that's what imposter syndrome is as we walk through it. And again, but it all starts with an identity statement. Fear of failure, imposter syndrome, anxiety, worry, stress really isn't just an emotional state, but it's an identity statement that says, I'm not good enough, I'm going to fail, I'm going to mess this thing up, I'm not able to succeed in this arena. And so for us, how to unpack that is starting with identity, and we do it through an exercise, and we call it an I am statement. And it's literally writing down a statement that starts, I'll give you the first part of it, I am, and the rest is from you. And it's really understanding, okay, well, who are you created to be? Apart from your position, your title, your role, your incomes, and all the things that we believe make us, but really don't. In that place, I say, okay, well, who are you apart from those things? Your character, your worth, your value, your passion, your insight, your joy, all of those things that make you you. And so for us, it's a tangible exercise of writing it down, not just having an idea of, I'm a person of worth and value. I have strength and capability. I'm a person of compassion and joy. And right, you can say it one time and it doesn't transform your life. But when you write it down, there's this reaction that takes place between your eyes, your hands, and your brain, your mind, where you start to believe it and you start to really engage with it in a way that really starts to transform you. It's, in science, they would call it, changing neuroplastic structures, changing the shortcuts to understanding and decision making in your mind. But it all starts with this: who are you apart from your outcomes? The I am statement. And then there's two other quick things, if I could mention them. To round it off, we do, second thing is a celebration list. And I ask my people that I work with, the clients, to create 20. I've done 100. And the celebration list is the answer to this question: what do you love about you? What I found with people who are highly successful or trying to succeed, dealing with those things of fear of failure and imposter syndrome, is even in success, they can see where they've fallen short. And I've been there in my life where you had this wonderful business transaction and you're like, yeah, but I should have done that differently, or I should have added this to it, or I should have invited for this. And so the celebration list is understanding your worth and value is innate, meaning this, that it's there whether you succeed or not in your outcomes. And so the celebration is saying, what do I love about me? What are the things about me that have worth and value, those intangible things that can't be stolen or taken away and don't need to be earned?
Right.
Many times the high achievers I work with, they feel like all of these things, everything has to be earned. And in that place, it's an exhausting journey instead of a delightful opportunity. And so the celebration list is the second, and then the accomplishment is the third. I've written 130. I invite my clients to write 20 and then continue to grow them. The interesting thing, is when you get to 30, 40, or 50, now all of the really amazing things are out of the way. And when you get to 60, 70, or 80, now all of a sudden it's, well, I wake up on time every day. I take care of my laundry. I pay my debts on time, or whatever the things that you're doing. And so what we're doing in that, again, to counteract fear of failure, is first and foremost to show that you have a track record of success on a daily basis. Sometimes we discount the ordinary successes in our life, and we wait till we receive that Olympic gold medal, that World Cup championship, and then we're going to be somebody to be celebrated. What we don't realize that high achievers do is this: if you don't celebrate yourself with the ordinary wins, you'll never get to the extraordinary ones.
Right. So in your book, Living Life by Design, Not by Default, This is a deeply empowering title, and especially for people who are seeking a luxury lifestyle. So, how does it help person create a life of purpose and abundance? I mean, from what we have talked about, imposter syndrome and bringing out the best version, how does this book sort of capture all those concepts?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is what I call the quick start guide to my life mastery course. I have a course that is got all of the trainings and teachings, the strategies and the tools that we use, and one-on-one coaching and all of those things that bring about transformation in people's lives. But the book is what I call the quick start guide. And what I wanted to do in the book format was to give people the ability to engage with those tools, to have strategies that they can do. So those concepts of the I am statement, celebration list, and the accomplishment list are things that are in my book. And I highlight some of the things that we use, which is our 3-step transformational strategy of mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. And so in the book, what I desire to do is have people be able to read something today, to implement it this week, and to see transformation this month, not change. Change is just a habit that you use. And the problem is you have to continue to use it to continue to get results, which means that if I want to, have something to overcome fear of failure, I want to have this generic mantra that I use to bludgeon my thoughts into alignment. And every time that they come up, every time failure or fear or worry or stress come up, well, then you're going to have to use that tool from that point forward. But transformation isn't me changing the activities and the verbiage that I use. It's actually transforming me into who I'm created to be. For us, that starts with mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. What do you think about you? What are the thoughts in your head? As I tell the people I work with, who you think you are, you'll become. Everybody, every person in all of time has been no greater than who they believe they are. And who they believe they are was first and foremost a thought in their head that came in, that was verbalized through the mastering their words and was actualized in mastering their actions. And so this book is really that quick start guide. I have it on my website as a ebook, so you can take it on any device, but there's also hard copies. And what it is the quick start blueprint for you to be able to live out those strategies as I implemented some of those I've just talked about.
So, do you have any success story through your life coaching and through this book that somebody has, achieved something amazing after going through your strategies? Would you like to
Yeah.
share?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you asking. I remember one of my clients, his name was Brett, and he was in business like myself, and like a lot of the people that I work with and have conversations with, he was a person that had success. And so on the outside, he had everything. He had the business success, he had a healthy family, he had a good marriage, he had the home and all of those things that you think are that luxury lifestyle, that luxury success. The challenge was that what all of us didn't see, myself included as a friend of his before he became a client, was the person that was stressed out at 3 o'clock in the morning, waking up in a cold sweat because their business transaction that they were working on, the revenue they were trying to make wasn't potentially going to work out. And it's all of the stress and anxiety and worry and all those things that come along with it. Again, that thing that comes along for the ride. And so for him, it wasn't a transformation of having business success, although he had greater and greater levels of success. Because the challenge is when you live in that place of imposter syndrome, fear of failure, many times you're controlling your outcomes by minimizing your dreams, by not reaching too far for the things that you desire, right? I only do as much as I can manage, because anything beyond that could potentially be a failure. And then what would that say about me? And so for him, there was greater success. But the great victory I saw in his life was the man that showed up. I tell people that my greatest goal for people's life is to unlock and unleash your hero in hiding in your business, relationships, and life. And what I loved seeing in him was that hero showing up. So his success in business wasn't just a relief because it didn't fail, which a lot of times when you're dealing with fear or failure, imposter syndrome can be the case. But it was a great joy because when he started to unpack who he was, the person he was created to be, not what his past and his life had told him, now all of a sudden he could really enjoy those things. He could really relish the successes that he had, and that success turned to fulfillment. It wasn't just achieving something to prove who I am, it was achieving something because of who I am. And in that place, everything in his life got better. Not only did he have great business success, continues to do so till today, but his relationships were different. The stress that would wake him up, the worry and all of those things that he would bring home and it would affect his relationships now weren't there. And I think of Vance, a person who was successful in business as well, but really not engaged in his home. He was giving all of his energy into his work, but his family was kind of a back burner. He was there as a provider. He wasn't there as a relationship to be able to engage in. So for him, in that transformational journey, who you are versus what your past has told you.
Right. So, in terms of this kind of a fulfillment that comes when you are aligned with your inner self, this fulfillment, I think, to my mind, it has come to me through meditation and through
Hmm.
mindfulness. What is your approach towards your clients or towards your own self for this?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question because many times the title of my book, Life by Design, Not by Default, is on purpose. And the reason it's on purpose is because everybody that I know, and probably many people you know as well, are living by default, which means that you believe that your thoughts are just something that come. And again, you try and beat them up with a mantra when they're there and all of those things. And you try and live to the best that you can. I remember there's a story that I tell people that there was a conversation with a person who was a multi-millionaire. And they were, I mean, hugely successful, still are hugely successful. And I remember this thing that they said. They said that, with every business transaction, fear of failure comes in. I feel fear of failure every single time. He said this, he said, I guess it's just part of the journey. It's just part of being successful. And for a person like me, that just drives me crazy because I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. So that life by default is that, well, I guess these things are just something to manage when they come up. It's not something I can overcome. That should never happen again. And so for me, it's understanding that. And with us, mastering your thoughts in specificity, as you had said, we use affirmations. We use affirmations because here's the truth of the matter. There's two truths I'd want to give you. The first is you can only have one thought at a time. Your mind can only entertain one thought at a time. So if you're having a positive, empowering thought that's driving you forward, you can't also have a disempowering thought that's bringing fear and worry that's stopping you from trying. And so in that place, again, life by design, not by default, what I make the people aware of that I work with is, well, if my thoughts are not just something that happens that I have to manage, but my choice and something I can master, that master comes from me preparing myself before the battle. You never prepare for battle while you're in the war. You prepare ahead of time. And for us, that preparation for battle is understanding, okay, well, when stress happens, when worry happens, when all of these things happen, there's going to be thoughts that come up. I can either continue to remind myself of who I am by those affirmations that I tell myself ahead of time, or I can fight off the negative emotions, the negative fears and worries and insecurities and imposter syndrome when they come up. The place of mastery is bringing affirmations into my life before the stress happens so that when they do happen, my natural response is who I am.
Right.
And for us, that starts with not just a general affirmation of I'm great, I'm good, I have success, I'm a person of value, but our affirmations tie with that identity statement, celebration list, and affirmation list. So they're not general concepts that you can reject or accept, but it's really me reminding myself of who I am. And for us, it's a multiple time a day. I request the people I work with to do it first thing in the morning and last thing at night and during the day as needed. And so it's an affirmation that is a reminder of, no, this is the person who I am. And what happens with Brett, with Vance, with all of the people that I work with and happened in my own life initially was now that person starts to show up. Now, when stress happens, worry happens, maybe there's a negative consequence in a business, maybe there's a relational challenge that you're walking through. In the past, the first thing that would happen would be fear or anger or stress or worry. But now all of a sudden, the response emotionally is confidence and worth and affirmation and understanding that I'm going to get the answers that I need to. You change because of those affirmations. Profound concept. I appreciate you asking about it.
So I guess, thank you so much. So I guess the idea over here, through mindset coaching and through life coaching that you and I tend to address, is that this is more of a discipline. This is more of a discipline to have to inculcate in every day of our life, perhaps.
Yeah.
Rather than just one time done and that's it. Forget about it. It has to be done every single day, morning and night, just like you said, so that we are in tune with that person.
Yeah, that's a great point. And here's the secret that nobody knows about that obviously you're fully aware of. So for us, the transformational strategy, mastering your thoughts, words, and actions, you're actually already using them. Life, right? Life mastery versus life management by design or by default, as you already know, the reason why we're using them ahead of time, the reason why it's a discipline that we fall in is because we already know that, well, I'm already using thoughts. but many times they're not empowering, but they're disempowering. They're not ones that are reminding me of who I am and the destiny I'm going to walk into, but they're reminding me of the failures I've had and the things that I've fallen short on. We're already using words. When stress happens, when issues happen, when somebody comes against you in a negative way, what are the things that you say? And more importantly, what are the words that come out of your mouth about you? We're already using words. They're either disempowering or empowering. So what we do is, first off, give you that revelation of these are tools you're already using. It's not something to add to your life. It's something to change in your life for transformation. And the second one is being able to empower yourself ahead of time, reminding yourself ahead of time, using those disciplines to consistently give yourself the thoughts that are going to move you towards that luxury life, that unplugged and amazing life that you desire, not the one that you've experienced in your past.
Right. I'm coming to a very specific point now. Just having this conversation with you, I'm getting so many questions. So we have spoken about imposter syndrome, we've spoken about fear of failure, we've spoken about life by design. The thing is that all these things are really great as a concept, but when somebody you meet who is your client, they are facing these challenges as anxiety, as stress, as a syndrome, and possibly they're living with somebody who is giving them this kind of a behavior pattern, and they tend to react in an anxious way. Affirmations fly out of the window. How do you handle such a client?
Yeah. And so in relationships, it, I guess, really depends on the relationship. So if I had a friend who said something, he said, life is amazing. The only challenge with it is the people in it. And sometimes that is the case where you're in relationship with somebody and you are believing for great things. You're believing that there's a vision and a dream that you can have and you're striving towards it, and a person that you can become. And then there's your friends, your family, the people that have known you who want to continue to make you or remind you of who you used to be.
True. That is my question, that how do you come out of that syndrome, perhaps because you are thinking that you have become somebody inside. You're not going to that person, that best version of yourself, just because of the outside circumstances. And then this shows up and this shows up again and again, and that turns into anxiety for that person, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so in that case,
And that's the hard question or the challenging question, but it's an easy one to have. So the thing I tell the people that I work with, so it would be, so there's different levels of relationship. There's a relationship of me and my spouse, somebody that I'm always going to be with, and we're in the same household, versus friends that I've had from childhood, versus parents that I visit every once in a while, or sisters and brothers, and engaged relatives that I see at certain times. And so first and foremost, the first is working on those tools and strategies, investing in yourself, because it's not the person that I want to be, it's the person that I'm created to be. And sometimes the person I'm created to be, that person of value and worth, of vision and dreams, of that luxury lifestyle, isn't the one that everybody else sees. And that's okay, because that's where they're at. But what my choice is first and foremost to refuse to accept and acknowledge those negative comments, those negative ideas about myself. And secondly, the more challenging choice for many people is understanding that relationship and time spent is a choice. And so for me, the people that I'm closest to, that I spend the most time with, are the ones who bring value to me, and I can bring value to them. So those are people that are like-minded. They see the best in me. They want the best for me. They understand that I can work towards these things, and I see the same in them. And so it's a mutual investment in our relationship. It's both of us investing in those things. And then those other people who want to tell you to do negative things, or remind you of the failures that you've had in the past, or trying to limit you to who they want you to be, not who you were created to be. And in those times, for your health, in many cases, my recommendation is, well, then you need to evaluate how much time you want to spend with them. Do you want to give them access to you consistently, so they're consistently telling you things that are putting you down, that are negating the positive traits in who you are? Or do you want to, as I say, those relationships happen in a circle. The inner circle is me and my God. The second circle is me and my wife. The third circle is me and close relatives and friends and family, and so on and so forth. People who are in the outer circles of relationship with me, I'll see them at events. I'll see them at parties. I'll see them at holiday functions, but I won't invest in them in weekly dinners and opportunities to have coffee or tea together, because who they are in my life is a drain on who I am and not walking me towards those things. So if it's my wife, it's my spouse, it's my parents who I live with, those people who I'm close with in proximity, then there's conversations to be had. And the conversation is really around the point of, hey, this is what I'm striving for. I believe that this is what I'm capable of and what I'm created for, and this is what I'm going towards. And while I appreciate that it's not who I've been, this is the things and these are the energies I'm putting towards that. And can you help me to do that? Because when you tell me those things about, failures, issues, challenges, limitations, that doesn't help me in that. I want us to have a quality and a close relationship, and I'm willing to invest in it in positive, empowering ways. And my question and my hope for you is that you'll do the same. If you can have that conversation with them, and it's their choice, they can either engage in it or they cannot. And for me, in relationships that I have, your response to that determines my response to you, and how much time we have together. Because at the end of the day, my priority is those people I'm in relationship with, my wife and my children, and the things that God's called me towards. And if people aren't empowering in that, that's great. I'm happy for where they're at, but I'm unwilling to give them a quality time in my life to hold me back from my life.
Beautiful, beautiful what you said. I've been pondering as you are speaking on so many things, and just for the benefit of my audience, I would like to pinpoint a few things that if they have to take away something from this particular conversation piece, it is going to be building your boundaries. First of all, being okay with the criticisms that are coming your way. I think that is your first point, that it's okay, whatever is their way of talking or having a conversation with you, it is perfectly fine. Second is building your boundaries. And thirdly, most importantly, understanding that you are the person that you've already become, and you need to protect that to be able to strive towards the goal that divine has put in for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and the thing I would tell them as well is, for every relationship that is not invested in because of their negative input in my life, you'll find relationships with people who see your value, who see your worth, who want to engage in a healthy and an empowering way with you. Many times we have to let go of the thing that's in our hand before we can receive the thing that's coming. And sometimes that's in relationship where people who are trying to hold us back from the life that we're created for are standing in the way. But once we're able to say, I'm going to put healthy boundaries, as you said, around that relationship, then you start to see people who are on that same path, who are going for those same things, who see that in you, and in those places, those rich and authentic and healthy relationships can develop.
Yes, absolutely. So now looking back at your own journey, what is that one lesson that you've learned that you wish more people understand it sooner?
The one lesson is you're greater than where you're at. Wherever you're at in your journey, whether you're somebody who's had some measure of success, a great measure of success, or not been successful in your endeavor, your vocation, your job, your business at all. The thing I would tell people is you're greater than where you're at. Don't settle for where you are. Where you're at is not everything, whether it's economically or vocationally or spiritually. Where you're at is not everything. And for me, it's understanding that, and because that's the thing that'll say, okay, well, if this isn't everything, then how can I prepare to become that person that can receive all of those things? If you understand that I'm greater than where I'm at, and believe in that and hope in that and strive towards proving that, you'll see the tools, the strategies, you'll see what I call the blueprint for you to get there in your life.
Lovely. So basically accepting your circumstances and your situation as is, and not trying to run away from it as the first point, because from there only you can start to carve out the real you.
Yes, absolutely. And there's more. There's more for your life than where you're at. To me, that's the greatest passion I have, is helping people understand that where you're at isn't all that you have. And so there's so much more. And me, and again, unleashing that hero in hiding is you finding the more for your life, relationally, spiritually, physically, financially, vocationally, that thing, because I know at the end of the day that what that brings is great joy and fulfillment in your life. It's a life well lived where you know that, man, this is exactly what I'm created for. That's the feeling I want to give people as they're living out that life they're created for.
Right, right. So in terms of through your book, are you also trying to send this message of balancing business and family? Because you do mention about yourself as a husband, as a father, and as an author and a life coach. So is that the sort of message that you have to balance it all out in all areas?
Well, to be totally honest, I don't necessarily believe in balance. So
No?
right now, right now, I'm working towards really investing in this message internationally. The things that I'm doing to build my business, and because there's only 24 hours in a day, there's certain time that is going to be taken away from family for this to happen. But what I do tell the people that I work with is that it's not a balance of giving everything in my life equal time. It's fully investing who I am in everything I'm doing. So in business, I'm investing the person that I'm created to be, but I'm also doing that in relationships so that my time with my family isn't casual time that's frivolous, but it's authentic time that's deeply and engaging and investing in intimate time with relationships. And so really isn't not me trying to balance all of my time so I feel like I'm okay because I've given 4 hours to each aspect of my life, but saying that who am I unleashed in business and those things? And so for me and my wife, our time isn't as, frequent. It's daily, but not as frequent. We don't spend all day together, but the times we spend are times that are meaningful versus times that are staring out at the space or reading a book, in the same room with somebody else, but not really engaging in them. So uh, yeah. And so with that being said, here's the thing that we do as a framework for life mastery. Life mastery as a definition is you living from who you're created to be at the highest level you're created for in every area of life. And so the question of relationship and spirituality and financial and vocational and all those things comes down to this question I have for them. What does that life look like lived out? You, the person you're created to be at the highest level you're created for, spiritually, relationally, vocationally. So for me, I have goals in each of those areas. And what it is understanding, okay, what's that life look like? What's that vision, that dream? What do my affirmations and my words speak towards that truth? And then putting the action towards living it out. Does that mean each of them has equal time in my day? No, but each of them has a vision towards the person I'm created to be at that highest level in my relationships and all of the other areas as well. If I'm striving towards that, I'm not only being my best for them, but I'm receiving my best from them.
So, in terms of building the character and towards your calling, managing your fears, your internal resistance, do you have any practical steps as the last nugget for our viewers, for our audiences, to help them understand, take some powerful insights about you as a coach, and perhaps from the entire discussion that we've had about being the best version?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a title of a chapter in my book, and it's actually a lesson in our course as well. It's called Your Character is Your Calling.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell people is it's not the things you're doing, not the skill sets you gain, not the attributes that you've learned in business or in athletics or whatever the thing is that is you're striving towards. It's you being lived out. I tell the people that I work with, you're the answer to the circumstance you're walking into. You're not the question to be figured out. And that answer is who you are. You're already fully equipped for that life that you're walking into. You're not equipped afterwards. You've been equipped beforehand. The only thing that stands in the way is your belief in believing that you're able to do it. And so for me, your character is your calling, who you are. It's not a title that I gain and then I have worth and value. It's not an income level that I receive and then I'm somebody who's worth respecting. You're worth respecting now. You're a person of value now. It's who you are that's lived out. And when I walk our friends through this, my clients through this, through their identity, through those transformational strategies and other things that we use, now all of a sudden you live it out. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you don't have those possessions, those positions, those titles in your life. But there's a difference from receiving them because of who you are versus striving for them to prove who you are. You're already enough. You're already worthy, you're already valued. As you start to unleash yourself, as you start to see in yourself the attributes that you have that'll bring success in your life, you'll start to have those outcomes and they'll have their proper place in your life. They'll be wonderful gifts because of you living out your life. They won't be a necessity for you to have to prove who you are in your life.
Lovely. So definitely this has been a very enlightening discussion, and we are truly inspired by living life on our own terms, aren't we, viewers? And these practical strategies and these insights are going to definitely help all of us in overcoming self-doubt, navigating challenges, and embracing that mindset that is required for abundance and success. So thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for this conversation, having discussion with us on this topic.
It's been my honor. Thank you for having me.
Loved it. Thank you so much.